Hey everybody, this is Brian with Bear Cards 34. Today I have two mail day pickups that I'm pretty excited about. This one in particular is one that I've wanted for many years and finally was able to get, so I'm excited about that. They're both vintage cards, and so we'll go ahead and start with this one. So with this one right here, this is a 1962 Mike Connolly rookie card from Topps. This is a PSA 7, and this is a tough set to get depending on the condition, with a higher grade, just with the black borders. Very similar to that 1985 Topps, only a lot earlier. So I'm really happy to have this card here. So the reason I picked out this card, and there is another Mike rookie card from this set, Mike Ditka, that I would love to have one day, but that's not in my price range, at least not right now. So I got this Mike Connolly. He is a former Utah State University alum, and for those of you who follow my channel, I'm from Utah. I went to Utah State, so I love collecting Aggies in the NFL. He actually started off his college career with Washington State University during his freshman year. He had a 2-year stint with the U.S. Marine Corps, and then he went on to USU and played with the Aggies in 58 and 59. And he was a two-way player there. So he played on the offensive line, switching between guard and center, and then he also played linebacker on defense. So he was a 12th round pick by the Rams in 1959. Because there weren't as many teams, that made him the 141st pick. But he was also picked in the AFL draft in 1960 by the Buffalo Bills. So he went to the Rams, but was cut in 1960, and then claimed off waivers by the Cowboys, where he spent the majority of his career. He was a 4-year starter at center, and he was a weightlifter, big into that, one of the strongest players in the NFL during his playing days. He even started in the 1967 championship game versus the Packers, which is known as the Ice Bowl. They lost to the Packers 21-17, but it was called the Ice Bowl because it was freezing cold that day. It was negative 15 degrees with the wind chill. At the time, they were saying it was around negative 48 degrees Fahrenheit. What had happened, too, is that the Lambeau Field heating system malfunctioned, and when they pulled the tarp off of the field, a lot of the moisture ended up on the field, and it began freezing. And it left this icy surface, so when they were playing, it was just really terrible conditions to be playing in. But Mike Connolly and the Cowboys, as well as the Packers, they did everything they could to make a game of it. In fact, it was so cold that the whistles weren't working right. One of the officials tried to use one at the beginning of the game, and the whistle stuck to his lips, and when he pulled it off, it made his lip bleed. So that was, and there's another story that some of the Green Bay Packer players, it was so cold that their cars wouldn't start, so they had to find other options for getting to the stadium to play in the game. So it was a very memorable game, and he was a starter in that game for the Cowboys. He, in fact, I'll tell you guys, Frank Gifford was a commentator. And right here, this is my only Frank Gifford vintage card. I got this as a kid for Christmas and have always been happy to have that one. It's off center, but it's actually in pretty good shape. But Frank Gifford was a commentator for that game, and he had a funny line that was pretty memorable where he said, "I'm going to take a bite of my coffee," just to kind of describe how cold things really were there. So anyway, Mike Connolly, he was a really great player for the Aggies, and he has a few cards out there. This is the one that I was hoping to land. He went to, his coach obviously was Tom Landry. So here's Tom Landry. And Mike Connolly went to Tom Landry before the 1968 season and let him know that he only planned to play one more year. The very next day, Tom Landry traded Mike Connolly to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Mike's final year was with the Steelers, but true to his word, he did retire after that season. He passed away last year in October at the age of 85. But he is one of the more, well-known Aggie legends, and so I'm very happy to have that card. All right, so for the other one, when I was a kid, there was an NFL Films video that came out of this guy right here. This is Ricky Bell. This is his rookie card. This is 1979 Topps. And this is the 1979, it's the 78 Buccaneers team leaders from the 79 set that he was also a part of there. So Ricky Bell, they did an NFL Films of him, and as a kid, I really liked that video. And so when I was able to pick up old packs from my local card shop as a kid, I was really happy to be able to pull some Ricky Bell cards just because of that documentary. And then in '91, they made a made-for-TV movie about him, which also increased my connection to him and to his cards. And so Ricky Bell, he's very well known for being the number 1 draft pick of the 1977 NFL draft. And for those of you who know your football history, this guy was in that draft as well. This is Tony Dorsett. Tony Dorsett played at Pitt, and he won the Heisman Trophy the year before. Now, Ricky Bell was an excellent player. He actually had been a runner-up for the Heisman Trophy his junior and his senior year. And during his junior year, he nearly ran for 2,000 yards. His statistics at USC surpassed Anthony Davis and O.J. Simpson. He was a great running back. And anyway, he was drafted by the Buccaneers. They're a team who had gone 0-14 during their first year as a franchise the previous year, so they did get the number 1 pick. The number 2 pick went to Seattle Seahawks, and the Cowboys traded their first-round pick and I think 3 second-round picks to be able to move up to draft Tony Dorsett. And so there was a lot of controversy from that draft where everybody thought Tony Dorsett should have been the number 1 pick, and in hindsight, he should have. He's one of the greats of all time. But Ricky Bell, it makes sense why they picked him where they did. He was a great running back, and the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was at that point John McKay, who had been Ricky Bell's coach in college, so you could understand why he might want to reunite with him. And so Ricky Bell became the top draft pick, and the Buccaneers continued to lose. And I think at one point they started their career during their first 2 seasons. The Buccaneers were 0-26. And in the meantime, Tony Dorsett went to a team that had been 11-3 the previous year. So they were very, very good. So Dorsett started immediately on a team with a bunch of Hall of Famers, great players, and they won the Super Bowl his rookie year, whereas Ricky Bell had a very subpar season. Look at that. As a rookie, he only had a 2.9 average. It came up to 3.7 his second year, but it really was a rough one for him. And if you look down here, kind of note, Ricky Bell's older brother is Archie, who is the lead singer of Archie Bell and the Drells, I believe is what they were called. So Ricky wasn't the only one to taste a little bit of that stardom there. So while the Buccaneers really did struggle, they did have some players that were notable. Doug Williams was his quarterback, and Doug Williams later went on to Super Bowl fame with the Washington Redskins. They also had this guy right here, Leroy Selman, Hall of Famer, great player. So they had a few nice pieces, but considering that they started off going 0-26, the 1979 year became just a standout year for the Buccaneers and for Ricky Bell. They finally saw in him what they had been wanting to see. And you can see here from his 79 team lead card, he had 1,263 rushing yards that season. Just a really phenomenal season for him and for the whole team. And it really, they won their divisional playoff game against the Philadelphia Eagles, and Ricky Williams, man, I probably have said that already. Ricky Bell, different Ricky. Ricky Bell ran for like 140 yards, 2 touchdowns. It was just a great game. They ended up making it to the championship game that year, and unfortunately they lost 9-0. But they were 10 points away from a Super Bowl after starting off 0-26 during those first couple years. So a real turnaround for the team, and they were just a great team. Ricky Bell, unfortunately, not just Ricky Bell, but the Buccaneers as a whole, the next year, things did not go quite so well. They started to take a turn as a team, and Ricky Bell's play also started to deteriorate. He started getting injured. He was ill. He was injured. He was really struggling quite a bit. And so the team as a whole was not doing well. He was not, the same player he had been in 1979. And in 1982, during the strike season, he was traded to the San Diego Chargers, and he barely even got on the field. He just was not healthy. John McKay had even said just before the trade that, Ricky Bell could be out 2 to 3 days with some odd ailment, and then all of a sudden he's back, and then he's out for 2 to 3 weeks. And it was just, it was a really tough time. And unfortunately, he was diagnosed with having a very rare illness. And this illness, it created an inflammation on the muscles in the heart. And, 90% of the people who had this condition at the time had a normal lifespan. Unfortunately, he was one of the small percentage of people who this really impacted. And so he had to retire just after that very brief stint with the Chargers, and really struggled with his health after that. He was married and he had one son and one daughter. And it got so bad that he was sleeping with an oxygen mask at night, and his wife had mentioned that it was very, very hard for her to see this guy who was used to running 10 to 15 miles a day be winded just by carrying his 3-year-old daughter from the house, or walking with his 3-year-old daughter from the house to the car. And so it was a very tough time for them. And unfortunately, Ricky Bell did pass away. He passed away in November of 1984, and left behind a 10-year-old son, 3-year-old daughter, and his wife. And he had a lot of players, teammates that just really loved him and thought the world of him. The movie that came out in the early 90s, starring Mario Van Peebles, there's a name from the past, it highlighted his relationship, his friendship, mentoring, and volunteering with a young kid named Ryan Blankenship. And I don't know if it's aged well. I mean, I know some of those TV movies from the late 80s and early 90s have not, so I can't guarantee that it's a good film or not, but I remember at the time liking it. And one thing that I do remember that was kind of funny, though, was they had Doug Williams. They would split real life game footage where you'd see Doug Williams, and then close-ups of an actor in number 12, who looked like Doug Williams. But then there were also spliced in some setups to the plays beforehand where it would be real life Tampa Bay footage from 1990 probably, and it was Vinny Testaverde. So you'd see, I think he's number 14, doesn't look anything like Doug Williams. So you'd see shots where it was Vinny Testaverde, and then close-ups of an actor who resembled Doug Williams with number 12, and then real life footage with Doug Williams in it as well. So it's, I do remember that being kind of a problem. I don't know that they'd get away with that these days, but anyway, he had a lot of great players who really respected him and loved him. One of the players who he played with in college was Gary Jeter. And he had talked about how Ricky Bell was the hardest runner that he had ever seen. Not only was he hard just with his physical aggression, but that he grunted when he ran. And he said you could really hear him coming with that grunting. And, in the documentary, Gary Jeter mentioned, that Ricky Bell, he never complained. He, other than just the closest people in his inner circle, never really told anyone about his condition. He didn't want people to feel sorry for him. And Gary Jeter just talked about how he was, that Ricky Bell was a one-in-a-million kind of guy. I know that it was tough for Ricky those first couple years because with Tony Dorsett being the pick a lot of people wanted to see, whoa, there we go, making a run for it. With Tony Dorsett being the guy a lot of people wanted to see, and then having Ricky Bell struggle while Dorsett had 1,000 yards rushing, went to the Super Bowl. There was a lot of negativity directed not just towards the Buccaneers, but towards Ricky Bell himself. And at one point, the fans were just heckling him so bad that he actually turned and went to confront a few people in the stands, and some of the other players had to restrain him. But, everybody who talked about him spoke of him with just being a very caring person, and the movie really portrays that too, just his dedication to service and being mindful of others. And so anyway, between the NFL Films documentary and that TV movie and then being able to open his cards as a kid, I always just really admired his story. And unfortunately it came to a sad end, but he definitely left his mark. And I think that 1979 Buccaneers team, a big part of that success was due to him. And that was really the first time the Buccaneers had that kind of success. And so now that I've given a bit of a history and rundown on Ricky Bell, you can probably know where this is going, at least to some degree. But this is a card that I picked up, and I have wanted, not necessarily this exact card, but just a card like this for a long time now. So right here we have a PSA DNA certified autograph of Ricky Bell. And here it is. Now this is old school, so this is when you're going to get the pen as opposed to the Sharpie there. But there is Ricky Bell's autograph and his number 42 right there on the Buccaneers team card. I've always thought it'd be great to have a Ricky Bell auto, and now I've got one. So this is like I said, it's nice to have it authenticated and slabbed, and just to be able to have that to add to my collection. Very, very happy about that. So anyway, that's my big card of the day, and like I said, one that I've wanted for a long time now. So I'm very happy to be able to add that to my collection, as well as the Mike Connolly, and appreciate you guys watching. I will tell you my next video that I have planned anyway is I purchased a few packs of 1991 Topps Stadium Club. So I'm going to open those. I'm in search for the Brett Favre rookie card. So hopefully I'll have some luck with that. And so I'm gonna rip a handful of those, and I also plan to do a little giveaway. I noticed that I have now gone over 500 subscribers, which I really appreciate. Thanks everybody for being a part of that. And so I'll do a little giveaway that's kind of attached to the that time period for the 91 Topps Stadium Club. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to do that. I am going to include the video. It's not the exact NFL Films video, but it has components of that in it, along with some other highlights of Ricky Bell. So if you're interested in kind of seeing how good he was and kind of hearing some of those interviews about Ricky, it's a great documentary. I think it's about 15 or 16 minutes long. I'll include that in the description, so you can feel free to click on that link as well. And anyway, until the next time, everybody take care, and thanks for watching.